It's beatings, it's electrical, it's dripping hot wax. They'll burn victims. They get clever.
They did all that to you? Welcome back to Other People's Lives. I'm Joe Santagato.
I'm Greg Dybec.
For anyone out there that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to hit us up. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Today, we are speaking to a man named Jeff Frazier. Jeff is a U.S. Army veteran turned entrepreneur and humanitarian. He has done a ton of work in Haiti, leading organizations that fight against child trafficking and poverty in the country. And during one specific food distribution mission, Jeff was actually kidnapped by a ruthless Haitian gang and held hostage for 43 torturous straight days. And he's here today to talk about how he was able to survive and escape that situation and why his kidnapping has only fueled his passion to help the people of Haiti. So, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And before we get into the story of your kidnapping and survival, can you just explain to us the general work that you were doing in Haiti at the time and why you find it so important and just what that general climate in Haiti is at the moment for anyone who might not be aware?
Sure. Yeah. The very quick version is I initially got started in the anti-trafficking space in Haiti, well, globally, but specifically in Haiti. And what we quickly found is that issue is predominantly poverty driven, meaning you don't sell your kids unless you're dying of starvation. And so we quickly learned in order to solve that issue in Haiti, we were going to have to lift that whole country. And so went to work trying to understand what that would take. And we've done all kinds of projects there, from agroforestry to building roads and digging wells and then, of course, policy work and all that. And we've got a lot of really good long-term ideas around how to help Haiti. But we realized last year, late 2022, that the country was falling apart so much that people were dying left and right, and that our long-term solutions weren't going to cut it, because many of these people that we were trying to serve were going to be dead before our fancy programs kind of came to fruition. So we changed our vision to, hey, let's just get some food and water and cooking oil out to these people in order to save some lives while we try to, in the meantime, solve the security issue. That's really the predominant driver. So to answer your question on what's happening in Haiti, a really long story short is the president was assassinated in 2021. That created a big power vacuum that normally is filled by politicians, but in this case was filled by the gangs. And so the gangs have taken over about 85% of Port-au-Prince now, that's the capital, and run really all the most important corridors around the country. And so the last bastion of safety, quote unquote, is really a few slices of the capital, meaning the airport, the U.S. Embassy, and its adjoined areas, and a handful of hotel rows. But for the most part, gangs run that place, and it's a pretty horrific environment. You've got about half the country in some form of extreme hunger, and about 2 million of them in what we call acute hunger or critical hunger. That's people who are starving to death. So it's pretty bad.
So, I mean, can you also describe the differences that you sort of like felt when you would go before and after this assassination, before the gangs kind of like took over?
Yeah, well, you used to worry about what they call bandits. It's like basically a bandit, right? It was the same gangs, but they would come out of their hiding places and come and do bad stuff, right? They'd steal cars, so carjackings. They were doing kidnappings, but never Americans. But they didn't hold territory. And what happened as we moved forward from 21, 22 is they started to take over territory and become these little mini countries unto themselves. They would fight amongst each other for borders, and then, of course, would destroy the police station in their area, burn it to the ground, and then they owned that territory. And so that was a major shift throughout 2020. 2020, the beginning of 2023. That's really where we were at when I got kidnapped last April. That's of 2023. Was these gangs were controlling the major corridors that would allow us to get food to the people in different regions of the country. And so we partnered with the World Food Program to go to places where they couldn't go, and we would make these deals with the gangs to get into these territories where normally that would go pretty well, but in this case it obviously didn't go well, and they couldn't. Yeah.
I was going to ask if you had interactions with the gangs, and you say that you were making deals with them. What kind of deals were you guys sort of making?
So you're just basically saying, hey, I want to come into your territory or go through your territory to do this food distribution. Are you good with that? And typically they're great with it because they essentially take credit for it, which is fine. I don't care. They would essentially be our security team while we were there, right? They would escort us in with their guns and whatnot, and we would do these food distributions. They would please the general populace in that particular area that they control, and then we would leave, and everybody wins, right? In that case.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, like, sometimes you hear stories of like cartel or gangs in territories. Like, is there some level of compassion for the people in their territories that they want to help, or do they just not even have the resources for that, and they'll just kind of take credit when they can in the case of you coming in and giving food?
Yeah, so there's a range. If you look at a continuum, on one end, you've got these pretty mature gangs who have been in control for decades in certain areas where there have not been outside services or police or anything like that for a long time. And those areas, really, the gang leader acts as the mayor, right, or as the president of that tiny little country, versus on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got these more recent pop-up or startup gangs that are maybe a couple years old that are just taking over, and they're incredibly brutal, and the general population absolutely loathes them and will occasionally rise up against them, which actually just happened about a week ago, and they ran out the gang. But unfortunately, that gang regrouped, came back, and killed 70 people in a devastating massacre. So those are two kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, right? On one side, you have what I just described, and on the opposite, they've achieved some sort of homeostasis where they've just kind of lived with each other for so long, nobody really remembers what it's like otherwise.
Wow. And I guess to paint this picture before we get into your story, we see news reports here, and I guess some of these gangs, like, what are you dealing with? Like, the level of brutality or ruthlessness, how are they terrorizing the territories and the citizens? What are some of the things that you've heard or seen?
Oh, it's as horrific as you could imagine. I mean, so of that 70 that were killed last week, 3 were infants who were brutally massacred. Public burnings, they'll burn people in their houses. They'll round them up, put them in houses, and burn them to death. They're, like, you name it, they're doing it. Frequent rapes where they'll rape one party and then kill everyone else. It's just, the worst things you can imagine.
Jesus. So yeah, I mean, I guess, would love to hear about your story, and can you kind of just walk us through, what the initial mission was, and how it kind of went south and you ended up getting kidnapped?
Yeah, sure. So our distribution mission was in a place called Jacmel, which is a relatively peaceful city or village in the south of Haiti. So if you imagine the shape of Haiti being like your right hand pointing to the left, so you got your thumb on the bottom and your index finger on the top. That's the general shape. It's 2 big peninsulas. So this is on the bottom of your thumb, right? The South Peninsula. And we had to go from the central area where the airport is, right? We flew in there. That's where the big port, so Port-au-Prince, right? The ocean port is. So that's where all the food comes in. So you have to get that food down to the south. How do you do that? Because you've got to go through one of several gang territories. Well, you make a deal. So we had a deal between my security guy, my head of security, and a particular gang to go through his territory. We weren't distributing in his territory, but we were just driving our truck through, both my kind of individual pickup truck and the food truck. And so we go through successfully. It was in a town called Martissan, which is kind of the main corridor to the west. We go through, no problem. When I call it a toll booth, it's like, a blue umbrella, 2 lawn chairs underneath, and then a bunch of dudes with, assault rifles, right? Usually AR-15s or AK-47s. And we get through. It's a very tense moment, but we get through. Apparently our arrangement worked, and we go down to Jacques Mill. We do the distribution for a few days. And on our way back, we go by that same toll booth. And we do so successfully. Like it's a hold your breath kind of moment. And I'm in the back of a pickup with very dark tinted windows. My 2 security guys are sitting in the front of the pickup truck with their windows fully down for security reasons, right? You don't want to be a threat, and you can't be a secret when you're coming in there. So you want the gang to see you, recognize your face, that, hey, we have a deal. And that worked. We keep driving by the toll booth. We get about half a mile, maybe a quarter mile from safe, right? There's this gang territory that we're passing through. Then there's a no man's land, which is kind of like, imagine the DMZ in North Korea. And then you get to the safe territory on the other side, and you can see it, where I can see safety. And then a bunch of motorcycles surround our truck, and a couple of guys jump inside, and we were kidnapped.
So they took you and 2 of your security team.
Yeah.
And did you, what was the reason why? Was it the same people that let you pass?
Yeah. No, it was the dudes from the toll booth that, saw us go by, let us go by, and then just decided to take us. What I know now that I didn't know then is they go on kind of these shopping sprees. So the day that I was taken, 13 people in total were taken and put into 2 different cells in 2 different rooms. 15. So 7 on one side, 8 on the other. And all of those people were taken on the same day, and then were slowly but surely ransomed and returned over the course of 43 days. So the last person was taken was released on the 35th day. And then I was by myself day 36 to 43.
Oh, geez.
That was just their shopping spree day. Right. I don't think there was any sort of grand plan to take us, and that they were waiting for us to come back through there. I think we just got unlucky on the shopping spree day.
Were you all Americans, or do they do this to Haitian citizens as well?
No, I think they just got lucky, grabbing an American. Coincidentally, so maybe 3 weeks earlier, I had read a story in the Miami Herald about an American couple getting kidnapped, and it, of course, felt terrible for them. And when I walked in and was led into the cell that would be my home, both of that couple, a man and a woman, the Toussaints, were sitting there.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. Right. So, and lucky for them, my first day was almost their last day. So my second day was their last day, and they got out after that. So
are you armed when you're doing these missions? Like when you were in the truck with your security, do you have weapons?
We were, yeah, but you're not gonna fight back, right? They've got 8 assault rifles. You've got a couple of 9mm and 45s, that kind of thing.
So, I mean, when they surround you and they take you, what's going through your head? Do you at first realize what's going on, or is part of you fearing for your life at this point?
Yeah. So I'm an eternal optimist. I definitely fight, the arrogance of things. And so in this moment, I have not accepted my fate. So even when they jump in the car, I'm not a stranger to armed gang members, right? We work side by side with these guys. So I'm still hopeful that there's some business deal that can be done. I was carrying $4,000 in cash for this project. So I was pretty confident, I could buy my way out of most situations, right? My presumption was that it was just a shakedown. And so we flip a Yui in the truck, head back toward the toll booth. And I'm presuming we're just going to go to the toll booth. Some mid-level gangster is going to come out and demand more than we had agreed to. But I definitely was not thinking kidnapping at that point. But then we make a left before the toll booth, which is south and up a hill, and we're headed toward kind of the gang's lair. And as soon as we make that left, then I know we're being held for ransom, and that's the plan. I still thought I had some get out of jail free cards just because of all the connections that I had from previous distributions. Most of those gangs are all allied with each other, so I figured I could call in some favors. It took me about 5 days, maybe three to 5 days to realize that none of those were going to work. And I was just going to have to be in it for the long haul. But so, yeah, it took me a while to accept it. But within 30 minutes, I had guns in my face and demands for $2 million. And so, reality set in real quick.
Oh, okay. 2 million. Wow. So that was my question, is like the shopping spree, their plan, I guess, for it to be flawless for them is they take the people they can get, and then they get ransom for each of those people and then actually do release them. Where are they getting these ransom numbers from, and who are they reaching out to get this ransom? Is it like the U.S. government or your family?
Oh, got it. Yeah. So the vast majority of those kidnapped are Haitians, not Americans, right? You get plenty of Americans, but there's some probably 200 Haitian gangs. Of those, maybe 30 are regularly kidnapping people for ransom.
Okay.
And then a handful are famous for it. And I'm with one of the ones that's more well known. And they kill about 20% of their captives. So everyone in there is frightened for their life, most certainly. And while I will do some calculus in my own mind and figure that I'm worth too much to kill, but you start second guessing that when they can make themselves famous by killing you. So you're always worried, and you're hopeful that they're going to keep you alive, but you're always worried that this could go south at any minute.
Do they, like, at any point, do like the people who are kidnapping you speak English? Are you able to communicate with them?
So I speak some Creole, but luckily the first couple of days, the Toussaints were my translators. And then later on that first day, another woman was kidnapped and she spoke English. So she acted as my translator for most of the time.
Okay.
So who did they reach out to on your behalf to try to get this ransom?
Yeah. So by so I was taken around lunchtime. By 6:30 or so, I'm able to get my phone for the first time and make a call and let people know it's taken. My first call was to a guy that I call Bill. That's not his real name, but who I think is going to be one of my get out of jail free cards. That's my first call. And I also give him another phone number of a friend who can, start my kind of home team of figuring out solutions to get me out.
Okay.
But that they basically give you the phone and say, hey, call your family or call your friends, get those wheels turning. And
so it's like if you want to live, here's your phone, go through your contacts and get us this money somehow.
Yes. And that's their shtick, right? They'll continue doing that as long as they have patience, because they treat you like an ATM, right? That most people have to pay 3, 4, 5 times before they get out.
Wow.
Right. So it's like, hey, give me $2 million. Well, I don't have $2 million. I have $1,000. And they'll say, okay, we'll let you out for 1,000. And they just never do. Right. And then that amount adds up, and eventually time takes over and they decide whether or not they've gotten all the coins out of your couch cushions. Right. And if the ATM is empty, then they let you go.
Jeez.
So how do they decide who to murder?
I'm sorry?
How do they decide who to murder? You say they killed 20% of their captives, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. So luckily no one was killed while I was there. The normal torture tactics were all deployed, but nobody was killed. There was a couple of moments where I thought we were all in trouble. But luckily this particular gang I know now is not known for murdering its captives, although there's blood everywhere in those cells, right? The blood all over the mattresses and stained in the floor. So, they definitely keep you quite frightened.
How are they torturing the prisoners?
It's beatings, it's electrical, it's dripping hot wax. They'll burn victims. They get clever.
They did all that to you?
I was beaten and shocked.
I love getting to talk about ZBiotics on the show because it is a product that we love here at OPL. ZBiotics pre-alcohol is a truly game-changing product that I use before a night out with drinks. And if you're anything like me, you do not bounce back the same after a night out with drinks. However, I was able to change that by using ZBiotics pre-alcohol. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. And it was invented by PhD scientists to tackle those rough mornings after drinking. And the way it works is when you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. And it's this byproduct, not dehydration. A lot of people think it's dehydration, but it's this byproduct that's to blame for that rough next day. And pre-alcohol produces an enzyme that breaks that byproduct down. So if you remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night, and of course, drink responsibly, then you will feel your best the next day. And I can attest to that. When I first heard about this product, I was skeptical. I kept wondering, this maybe sounds too good to be true. But now that I've tried it, I stand by it and I use it because the recovery and just sort of the next day, I'm able to actually look forward to it and being productive and getting things done when I do have ZBiotics pre-alcohol. So you can go to zbiotics.com/OPL to learn more, and you'll get 15% off your first order when you use the code OPL at checkout. Best part is ZBiotics is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. So for those of you who are skeptical and do want to give it a try, if you are unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. So definitely give this a try, and remember to head to zbiotics.com/OPL and use that code OPL at checkout for 15% off. I have a quick test for you. Can you remember all the subscription services that you pay for? I'm talking like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, the list goes on, and you probably couldn't even name them all. The crazy thing is that 74% of people have subscriptions that they have completely forgotten about it. The problem is if you forget about it, that doesn't mean you don't have to pay for it. So many of you, probably you listening, are paying for subscriptions that you don't even realize you're paying for. There's nothing worse than wasting money in that way. That honestly used to be me, but then I started using Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, and it monitors everything that you're paying for and helps you lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. That's insane, and that saves members up to $740 a year when you're using all the app's features. Personally, I used to think I was spending around $80 to $100 in subscriptions. Then I got Rocket Money. It showed me the full breakdown of everything that I was paying for, and I was shocked when I saw that I was paying almost $300. And I had subscriptions from years ago, things that I hadn't even thought about in forever that I was still paying for. So thanks to Rocket Money, I was able to delete a bunch of those subscriptions. Now I pay a number that I'm comfortable with for the subscriptions that I actually do want. And they even help negotiate bills lower, and they'll alert you if the prices get raised. So really, really cool product, super helpful if you're trying to save a bunch of money. So stop wasting money on things that you don't use and cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/OPL. That's rocketmoney.com/OPL, rocketmoney.com/OPL. Do you remember, 43 days is a very long time. Can you sort of pinpoint in your mind what maybe like the hardest stretch of that was, or the hardest moment on you mentally and physically?
Yeah, so I escaped on the early morning hours of day 29. So we had a failed ransom attempt on the evening of the 28th day, and I'd already prepared an escape. And after they didn't let me go and then came back and made a bunch of threats to beat me forever, and then I was going to die there, I basically decided to try the escape attempt.
Wait, so you did get them money and they didn't let you go?
Correct, yeah.
Wow, how much?
I probably shouldn't say, but it was far less than any of those numbers.
Okay.
That they demanded. It was a very small amount. I'm proud of my team. They played a very tough game of chess and won.
So small
But
amount, you think you're out. They tell you, nope, not enough. We're keeping you here. Okay. So can you walk us through how you planned and, did this escape?
Yeah. So I had very few options to get out so you're in concrete and then the windows are covered in bars. And, I don't know how much time you guys have, but I had essentially figured out a way to take the nylon from one of the mattresses. There's like if you imagine your mattress at home, it's made out of nylon, most likely. And then there's like a ribbing around the outside. I had sliced off that ribbing and made it into nylon rope, and then put that nylon rope around the bars that were covering the window. And then if you're familiar with how a tourniquet works, right, you stick a stick through like a fabric and then you twist it, right? That's essentially what I did. And then that pulls the bars together. And if you do that to two different sets of bars, then that opens a gap in the middle. And it took a couple hours to do that night. But by 3 a.m, there's enough space in the bars for myself and one of the other captives to fit through.
What made you risk that? Did you think that if you were caught escaping that they would kill you?
It's definitely a concern. I was banking on the fact that the calculus would remain even after they caught me. I expected a lot of beatings. So the Toussaints mentioned somebody who tried to escape while they were there and that they were beaten pretty badly. So I presumed that was my most likely consequence, and that I was still worth money, alive. But you never know.
So how far did you get?
We only got maybe 1.5 miles. It lasted about 8 hours of pseudo freedom before we were captured by a neighboring gang, and then eventually returned to our cell that next late morning.
Is there a reason why only 2 of you went?
So there was only 2 in that room at that point. Everyone else had been released. There were still, I want to say 3 or 4 dudes in the other room on the other side at that point, and I offered them a chance to come with us. We were able to communicate we shared a concrete wall, and on the outside, we both had exterior windows, so I could pound on that wall. They would then come to their window, and then I could talk to them out my window, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so I offered them a chance to come with us, and they said no. And so it was just myself and the other female that was captive with me in my room.
So I guess 2 questions. 1, do you remember the feeling when you got captured? And 2, were there consequences for an attempted escape?
Oh yeah. No. So that's when the reason I brought that up is your question was, when did it get particularly bad? And
right.
That was when. So as soon as that's when my real kind of tortures and beatings started. And from then on, it was pretty horrific.
What were some of the things they did? And I guess just like how continuous, or, was it just sort of beatings all day long?
No. So that first day, it was pretty much all day. They gave me breathers, but, it's like different people would come in and, have a good time and make threats. And so that was day 29. And then, it was definitely less frequent in the following days, but everyone else so when I came back, they didn't put me in the same room because the bars are bent. They put myself and the other captive in with the other dudes on the other side. And I want to say there was then 5 of us. Yes, there was 5 of us in that room, and they all started getting released. So that was day 29. They start getting released on like day 31, 32, 33. So by day 35, everybody's gone, but me. And that whole kind of solitary thing from day 35 to 43, that sounds like not very many days, but it is an excruciatingly long amount of days when you're by yourself. And every time that door opens, it's another, not good situation. So I started acting very primal. I remember being woken in the middle of the night by dudes coming, and I would pop up on all 4s like a cat, like a caged animal. It's not a good place to be in when you think you're fighting for your life all day, every day. It's a very high level of cortisol to have running through your blood it that many hours in a row.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Are you fighting back also, or you just have to just let this happen?
No, you've got to submit, right? I think all of my training in the military was that you got to protect yourself, try to stay safe. And you got to remember what they're trying to achieve, right? They just want you to submit. In some cases, they're just trying to feel powerful, right? And so you'll even, vocalize more than you would normally, right? You want to give them the satisfaction that they came for so that it'll just stop, right? And so like, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm very physical. I've always really enjoyed, I used to box in the Army. I like that kind of feeling. I love football. I was not a very good football player, but I really enjoyed the violence and the contact of it. The idea of a beating isn't in and of itself as bad as it sounds, but when they start really hurting your body, like they would wreck my hands, right? By twisting my fingers and joints around. I still have nerve damage on my right hand from it. That kind of stuff really triggers a different thing in your mind that is incredibly frightening. And then anytime you've got a gun against your body, any part of your body, that it's really hard to keep your cool.
And what were the just living conditions? Like, were you being fed? Were you given water?
I lost about 50 pounds while I was in there. That last couple of days before I was released, I got very little water, and that is a terrifying situation. We had some bleach water that you're not supposed to drink, but you just do anyway, because I don't know what it is about your mind. You feel like you got to drink something. But so yeah, sometimes.
Wow. So, I mean, how did you ultimately end up being released?
So, luckily my team was awesome and demanded this. So the normal mode for a ransom is that you send a courier into the gang's territory, very close to where I was taken, and you hand over the cash. The gang takes the cash up to the hill to their base. They count it and then decide whether or not they're going to bring you down the hill and give you to the courier. Right. And that didn't go well on day 28. So my team was like, hey, we're not playing that game again. We will pay small one more time, but you got to do a live exchange. And so that means Jeff needs to be there. Otherwise our courier isn't going to give you the cash. Mm-hmm. And I'll save the details of that. You can jump on the podcast to get the 2-hour version of this story, because everything went sideways on us. But luckily, eventually it works. And I'm driven on a motorcycle to the Marriott Hotel, and I was free.
You keep complimenting your team, and it seems like there's a lot of strategy behind how to negotiate this situation. Is there part of you that was enduring more pain and beating and kind of prolonging this to play this game and to pay less money? Like, at any point, could you have picked up the phone and said, just give them more and try to get me out?
It's funny because the opposite was actually true. So this is kind of the ongoing battle between myself and my team. So let's rewind back to the early days. I made that phone call, the first phone call. My kind of get out of jail free cards didn't work. That took a few days. And then at that point, I decided to negotiate on my own behalf, which is a terrible idea because normally your negotiators are somewhere else and you are stuck in the middle as this kind of point of leverage. Right. So imagine if you, Greg, are my negotiator and you're on the phone with the gang and they say, I want a bunch of money or I'm going to hurt Jeff. Right. And you say, don't do that. But you're also playing tough, saying, I'm sorry, how am I going to get that money? Right. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of you're trying to be nice and not make the gang angry. But his leverage is hurting me. Right. I'm the captive. Right. He's not necessarily, there's a lot of things in between dead Jeff and comfortable Jeff. Right. And he can do everything in between and not lose his investment. Right. And so that's obviously a tricky thing for a team to negotiate around. But imagine if now I'm the negotiator and I'm the point of leverage, right? It doesn't take much to get me to agree to just about anything. Right. And so I decided to negotiate on my own behalf because I don't know who to call. Right. I'm deeply involved in Haiti. I know Haiti very well. I know Haiti issues deeply. I know the environment. I speak at least some of the language. I can see that everything going around me. I understand what others are paying that are getting free. I cannot imagine anyone being more qualified to negotiate on my behalf than me. And so I don't really let my outside team negotiate on my behalf. Right. I don't really acknowledge that I even have a team until like day 14. When I start to see text messages come across my phone, because I got to see my phone again on day 14, and everyone I love is messaging me with the same message, like, "Hey, use this phone number as your negotiator, and stop playing games." And eventually I relent, right, and I turn my my heart over to accepting that I'm going to be in this place for a long time. There is no quick amount that you can pay that's going to get you out, because if you pay big and you pay fast, then they just assume that the ATM is big,
right,
and will keep yielding cash for a long time. So that the only thing that's really fixed is the amount of time. Right. No matter what, I'm going to be in there for about 6 weeks, right? Maybe 4 weeks, maybe 8, right? Depending on how we play this. But if I pay big and fast, I'm in big trouble, right? And so in my negotiating on my own behalf, I'm of course saying big numbers, right? And trying to do that fast. And then my team on the outside is talking to the gangs on their own and totally discrediting me, right? And saying, and that's really what my own podcast is. If that 43 Days of Freedom that we talked about before, is it goes through all of that, right? It's excruciatingly painful to see us fighting each other, myself and my team on the outside, being led by my wife, who I don't realize is becoming this incredible strategist on my behalf, but I just have no idea what's going on the outside. So we're kind of at odds for quite a while.
Wow.
That is unbelievable. I can't even imagine. And then, what kind of injuries did you sustain? Like when you get out, like what is life like immediately after that? Do you have to be at the hospital for a while?
No. So most of it's bumps and bruises. And then, my hands were messed up pretty good, but I'm not going to go to the hospital for any of that. But, just, the weight loss, but most of it was, post-traumatic stress stuff. And I was wrecked real good, in that. I was definitely in shock for a while.
How long ago did this happen?
That was last year. So, I got out May 24th, 2023.
Oh, wow. Pretty recently.
Yeah.
And since then, what have you done with your freedom? Because from my understanding, you are still involved in Haiti?
I am, but I have super enjoyed my freedom. It's been fantastic. Those first few days were wonderful. I ate so much. I say that I lost about 50 pounds. It was probably more than that. I don't know, because I didn't get back to my house for, I think, 5 days. My wife wisely took me to a hotel offsite to let me kind of come down a little bit. And she was in terrible shape as well, right? She had been riding this very similar trauma for 6 weeks also. So we needed some detox time, which we did. But when I come back, is the first time I got on a scale, and it was 50 pounds at that point. So It was probably more than that.
Did you stay in Haiti, or did you go right back to America?
No. So they didn't have any flights out that same day. I think I got free around 4 p.m, but I was on an 11 o'clock flight the next morning and came back to Miami.
So you enjoyed that time, new lease on life, obviously, but did it cross your mind to stop the work that you were doing, or did you sort of just say, I'm doubling down now?
Oh yeah, definitely double down. So when you see the level of terror that these gangs are levying on these poor people of Haiti that you can't help but fight on their behalf. You know, that you just yards away from where I was being held captive are many, many, many Haitians who are being held captive to this day, right? I'm free. I'm here in my house in South Florida, and I'm comfortable and warm, and they are still there, right? Going through this same terror, and are being raped and forced to subject themselves to all sorts of horrific things. They can't go to church, they can't go to school, they can't go to the hospital, they can't get food. It's just horrible. And so absolutely, I'm going to stay in the fight and try to bring peace to this nation and prosperity to this nation. We have not yet achieved it. It's only gone one direction, but I won't give up.
So what is the work that you're doing currently, and has it evolved since before your kidnapping?
Yeah, it definitely evolves. So, I never did this podcasting thing. That's really my intent, is to raise massive awareness within the U.S. And basically anybody outside of Haiti about what's happening in Haiti and how they can help. And that changes on a daily basis. And so the podcast audience that I'm trying to grow is people who want to know how to help at any given time, right? So a couple of weeks ago, it was about a particular piece of legislation that helps businesses that help businesses in Haiti. So if you're in the U.S., you get favorable tax status for your business to do business with companies in Haiti. So that was then, and that luckily that passed and is moving forward. And then it'll be another thing, and then another thing. But I'm trying to essentially raise up an army of advocates who understand how to lift Haiti from outside of Haiti.
Have you been back to Haiti?
No, I can't go back for quite a while. The security situation has only devolved, and now I'm very well known amongst the gang leaders. So I would be marked at the airport.
Wow.
And wouldn't get very far.
So where can people find your podcast and the audience that you're building and all the information that you're putting out?
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking. So if you'll start at our website, it's stimpack.org. That's STIMPACK.org. And then you'll get all your links, your social links from there. You can follow us on podcasts or, YouTube or Instagram and all of that. But we'd love to have you come listen to. So 43 Days to Freedom is season 2 of our podcast. Ignore season 1. It's incredibly boring and technical and nerdy. So just jump to season 2. That's the 43 Days to Freedom series. And then season
and that's
3
where you go into even more detail of your story and your
the whole
confinement.
season of the story. It's like 15 hours. People binge it and then send me emails after they come out the other end. It's an honor that people spend that much time in it. But if you want to see the real story of what it takes to get somebody free and just to survive while you're in there, that's your story, is 43 Days of Freedom. It really takes it shows you all the perspectives, because I have my wife, and that jumps on the podcast as well and tells her side, reads from her own journal, and then some of my other fellow captives and rescuers, and so yeah, it's a whole season to kind of understand the micro nuances of what it takes to get out.
Wow, unbelievable.
If anybody ever makes a movie about our situation, it'll be from my wife's perspective. That she is the hero arc, right? I'm just this idiot sitting in a concrete box, but my wife, it becomes this incredible thing, and you get to see that happening kind of before your eyes.
It's incredible, honestly, just to even hear about it. I mean, I'm locked in to this story, and I definitely have to go check out the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, and no, seriously, what you endured, and the fact that it has caused you to only want to help people more, and just try to do something for that situation. It's so horrible to hear everything that you just said, and just even catching the news stories and seeing what's happening, and just knowing that so many people there. It's it's a fear to walk to the grocery store, or I know people are tracking, oh, my mom went to the grocery store today. Is she going to get kidnapped or, come back, or kidnapped for the 5th time? It's insane. But, no, I think, doing what, obviously I don't know if you ever plan on going back to the country. Please be careful.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, once we establish security there, then I can go back and absolutely plan to do that. It's funny. I'm incredibly optimistic about Haiti. If you look around the world at other nations that are deeply impoverished, right? I think Chad, Mozambique, Rwanda, or all these countries are poor for Rwanda's a bad example because they're actually doing a lot better now. But there are many countries that are poor. Haiti's like 20 on that list, and all of the ones above it are poor for the more predictable reasons. They have poor geography, or they've got ethnic tensions that have caused civil war for decades, or they're suffering from desertification, or they're landlocked, or all these kinds of things that are hard to overcome. Haiti has none of those, right? Haiti's in a great location in the Caribbean. They have tons of great business partners. There's no reason why they should be at war, and they're not, right? It's a different thing, right? All of the issues that they struggle with are solvable issues. And we at STEMPAC, and you'll learn this in season 3 if you ever get that far, are presenting a solution to those issues, right? Things that we think are the missing piece of the puzzle that is Haiti, because it is most certainly a puzzle, because it shouldn't be in this situation. And we think we found the missing piece to that puzzle, and that's what we're trying to present to people.
Dude, we cannot thank you enough for coming on our platform and talking about this. I mean, the story is incredible. Not only, to come on here and raise awareness for your podcast and the story, which in turn will create more awareness, but also just in general for the issues that are going on in Haiti. And, I think it's incredible that you not only started jumping into this sort of field and then, going through what you're going through and sort of doubling down and helping in any way that you could, with more plans to get back there when you can do that safely. Like, it really is incredible. And we just thank you so much for coming on our platform and sharing this story. And we hope that, other people who listen to this show will check out, everything and hopefully help in some way that they can as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's an honor to tell the story and hopefully do some good work for these people in Haiti.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely be checking it out. We'll drop the link and everything in the description of this show. And we just truly wish you the best of luck with everything. And please stay safe out there if you do go back.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that someday. And thanks to everybody at home for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you,
man. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right, bye.
That is an unbelievable.
That's just something you see in a movie.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't even imagine. I mean, I was so locked in. I feel like I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't feel like I was there. I'm not looking to go that far. But I like, you can just, it's unbelievable. And to even like be in the position where you're like, I have to plan an escape and be scared for your life, like every single day, and realizing like, I don't know when I'm getting out of here. Like, I can't even imagine that. Like,
it's crazy, man. And like, to me too, it's just that like humanitarian mindset, like people like him who it's just like, I will dedicate my life. I won't just dedicate my life, but I will put my life on the line for other people who are just in worse circumstances than I am, in a completely different country, so many of us don't feel the need or don't have to care about these issues that don't directly affect us. And then there's just, people who like him who are just dedicating all of their willpower and resources and can go through such a traumatic experience like that and then come out and say, nope, all these people still deserve the help. And I feel like I can provide it.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, the world is truly a better place because of people like that are willing to just go out there, put their lives on the line for other people just because they think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And especially in a world where a lot of people are just kind of like in their own worlds and worried about themselves and not really, to have people that are so like unbelievably selfless and will go out of their way to, like, I mean, like we keep saying, put their life on the line just to do the right thing is just unbelievable. Like, What a wild story. And I mean, definitely go check out the podcast, 43 Days to Freedom.
Yeah, Stimpack. I think
Stimpack.com.
We'll make sure that pops up in the description.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we thank him so much for, like for him to raise awareness now is also him reliving that trauma every single time he tells that story.
Yeah.
So it's, I think that's asking a lot of him, but he knows like a story like that is the gateway to awareness, and eventually that trickle down of people who then want to get involved or want to help or want to donate. So for him to continue telling that story is awesome, and we truly do wish him luck.
Yeah. For anyone out there that would like who would like to be a guest on our show, hit us up. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, TikTok at OPL Podcast. Got a bunch of clips up there, engaging in the comments with other listeners. And you can support the show at patreon.com/OPL show.
That is all. See you guys next time.